howdy, old TV fans. Earl at thelogbook.com back with another tale of infinite sheep. This one from my days at WACY in Green Bay. I don't think we have really touched on that station or my experiences there yet. And that really kind of was my favorite gig. By miles. I liked that experience for the most part better than what I ran into at other stations at which I worked, mainly because it was kind of a best case scenario. You know, you were kind of the last market in this station, sort of like we were in Fort Smith at Fox 46, except that this was kind of the last ranked station in Green Bay. And so it was a significant jump in market ranking going from Fort Smith, Arkansas to Green Bay, Wisconsin, as you can imagine. So not only was there nowhere to go but up, but now there was actually a budget and there was a bit of a support system. And it was neat. It was just really neat to have that rare combination of elements. Now, if there was a weak link in the chain of my experience there, it was actually the network that we were on. UPN, United Paramount Network, is really known mainly for being where you found Star Trek Voyager. Later on, it became the home of Buffy after the WB canceled Buffy. It became the home of Star Trek Enterprise, and of course, it became the home of SmackDown. So there was some interesting wrestling crossover. I really didn't have too many problems with the programming at UPN, but some of the promotion just seemed like it made me want to ask the folks in LA, okay, have you really thought this through? Yeah, have you really thought about how this is going to play outside of LA and New York? In 1998, UPN had its first change of president and CEO to a gentleman who had previously been at Disney. And he wanted to revamp UPN's image. Okay, so definitely there was a new image campaign in place. The problem with it is, there were some cool shows that came with this new regime, although I suspect that some of those shows were in development from the previous regime. However, other than Star Trek, the one thing that UPN had really become known for was as Fox Network started getting wider and wider because they got the NFL license and they were trying to kind of center themselves in the market. Fox surrendered their sort of urban image that they had had before. And UPN picked that up and ran with it. Good plan. All in favor of it. However, with this 1998 season that was being rolled out, UPN was trying to do the same thing that Fox had already done, and suddenly they were trying to shed the urban image a bit, which I thought was a mistake. I thought they could have it both ways, but they really did kind of marginalize the more urban-oriented programming, and I believe the thinking was, we're aiming at middle America now, which is just another euphemism for we're going to try to whiten the network. Part of that image campaign was that they commissioned a jingle from a New Zealand musical act called OMC. Now, OMC in 1997 had a fairly big hit called How Bizarre, which, just had this very pleasant sort of mid-tempo drum machine thing going with some guitar strumming. And you probably remember it if you are of a certain age, you probably remember it being all over the radio, that guy just repeating, "How bizarre, how bizarre." And it was almost kind of a spoken word thing. It wasn't really sung. There were background singers. And it wasn't really rapped either. I mean, he was just talking. How bizarre, huh? Okay, so they commissioned that group to create a new jingle called "You'll Find Yourself on UPN." And that was the image campaign for this new 98 season that was coming in. And it was a disaster. A lot of those shows did not last, did not catch on. And also, they very quickly started minimizing this OMC jingle that they had paid a huge amount of money for, because, I mean, you were talking about the first musical artist out of New Zealand to hit #1 on the US charts. That cannot have been cheap to get that jingle. Okay, so where all of this is going is leading into Christmas of 98. All of the stations were kind of under the gun. Okay, pick up this "Find Yourself on UPN" idea and run with it. And a lot of us were like, okay. So we were doing a contest with a local hardware store, if I remember correctly. Well, I'll be proven right or wrong here in a moment when we look at the spot. The contest, I decided to kind of make fun of UPN's thing that we had going on. And we were going to find our elf on UPN. So let's see this spot and see if you can spot the problem, because there was a problem.
This is a UPN 32 holiday news bulletin. One of Santa's elves has escaped from the North Pole, and he's headed for UPN 32. All next week, keep a close eye on UPN 32 throughout the evening. When you see and hear this jolly little guy, you found your elf on UPN 32. Write down what time you found your elf along with your name, address, phone number, and send it to this address. You could win one of 5 $50 gift certificates from Kruger's True Value Hardware in Neenah. Keep watching, and starting next Monday, you could find your elf on UPN 32.
Wow, Neenah. Haven't thought about Neenah, Wisconsin in a very long time. Okay, so there's a problem there. If that had been like a toy giveaway, that would have been a great spot. It was kind of a mismatch when our grand prize was, gift certificate credit at a hardware store. And so you had kids entering this contest. And then, much to their dismay, discovering that they had won a gift certificate at a hardware store. So, my bad for not catching that. That's entirely on me. There was a mismatch between the feel of the contest and the prize that was on offer. The other elements that you saw, such as the extreme letterboxing and the kind of semi-ghosted floating text in the background, that was all part of UPN's playbook for the Find Yourself on UPN campaign. And we had redone all of our legal IDs to match this. We had redone our in-house image stuff to match the Find Yourself on UPN campaign. And it just cratered. It just did not do great. In fact, I'm going to see in real time if we have, because I think I may have saved these. Yes, yes, the Fall 98 interstitial compilation. Okay, there is no sound on these. Let's take a look at them.
Wednesdays this fall on UPN 32. News Radio, weeknights this fall on UPN 32. You're watching UPN 32, Appleton, Green Bay.
I'm Leah Moreno, and you've found yourself on UPN 32.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure you get the idea there. Everything was supposed to fit into this, letterbox it and have moving text thing going on. That was the sad fate. Nobody found themselves on UPN. A lot of people found elves on UPN, or at least on our UPN station. They just didn't know what the elves were going to bring them, and thus was the the smoking crater formed by the remnants of a not great image campaign nationally, and perhaps a misfire on my part locally. So, yeah, not everything was a resounding success.